Greetings, it's Ian from RTO here. Welcome to Thursday. Can't believe it's Thursday already. So Thursday is a busy day on the channel, of course. And we start off with a battle of the debuts. Now today's is quite unique. Because the bands we're looking at today, we are putting the small faces up against the faces. Because you've got basically the same band, they replaced two people and changed their name. So we're looking to see, did the Small Faces debut album, was it better than the Faces small album? So, confusing one, but a very clever one, I thought, today. So, let's have a look then. So, first, obviously, it's the Small Faces. Small Faces, English rock band, formed in London in 1965. The group originally consisted of Steve Marriott, of course, Ronnie Lane, Kenny Jones and Jimmy Winston. But Ian McLagan replaced Winston in 1966. And they became one of the most acclaimed and influential mod groups of the 1960s. Made some really good records, quite like the band. It's one of the great bands from this country in the 60s. So, their debut album was the self-titled Small Faces and released in May of 1966. And on it we have got Steve Marriott, lead guitar and backing vocals, Ronnie Lane, bass, backing and lead vocals, Kenny Jones on the drums, Ian McLagan on keyboards and backing vocals, Jimmy Winston plays keyboards and rhythm guitar, and Kenny Lynch, yes, the Kenny Lynch, on backing vocals, and he also was producer of this album. Okay, the first track on here is Shake, which is obviously a Sam Cooke cover. It's not a bad version of the song, but I do prefer Sam Cooke's on this one. Then we get a track called Come Children Come. I find this a little bit, what would I call it? It's a good track, but I find it a little bit disjointed. I think the memorable bits on here are Kenny Jones's drumming and the guitar work from Steve Marriott. But apart from that, it sort of gets lost in places. So I can't say too much on that one. Then we get You Better Believe It. That's not a bad song. That's very typical of the time. It's Too Late. This is my favourite track on here. It's a great track. It's one of my favourites by the Small Faces as well. It's got a great bass line from Ronnie Lane. Really strong track. Then we get One Night Stand. Another of those great bass lines from Ronnie Lane. Some really good, it's a very good vocal as well, and some really nice guitar work from Mr. Steve Marriott. What You Gonna Do, great little rocker. This is written by Ian Samwell, wrote many other hits, and it's a very good track. Sorry She's Mine, this is wrote by Mr. Kenny Lynch, a really good song. I love the keyboards on here. Nice vocals, solid track. Own Up Time, some nice drumming from Kenny Jones on this. The guitar work from Steve Marriott is good, solid track. You Need Loving, love this track as well. Some great guitar work here from Steve Marriott. You've got Ian's great keyboards on this one, I believe. Is it? Just check. Track 9. Who does the keyboards on track 9? Yes, it's Ian McLagan. Very, very good. Then we get, where are we? There we go. Don't stop what you're doing. I love this track. It's a great vocal. I think it's Ronnie Lane singing, if I'm not mistakenly, or Steve. I can't remember which one sings on this one, but it's a really good track. Some great guitar work from Steve Marriott as ever. Then we get E to D. Steve Marriott's best guitar track. Love that riff. Really, really good. And the album ends up with Sha-La-La-La-Lee. Big hit from the album. Very catchy tune. I like it, but they did do better ones, of course. But it is still a classic from the band. So what do I think of this album? Well, I think it's a real mixed bag of stuff on here. Some of the tracks are really good. Some of the Steve Marriott's guitar work is brilliant, but there are some tracks that are a little bit weak. I mean, I think they made some better songs in their very short career, but this was a solid start. It's an album that I do go back to play, and okay, everybody knows Sha-La-La-Lee, but it is a classic from the band. So, what do the old critics think? Well, the album was well received by music critics and was popular with the public, rising to number 3 in the UK album chart and remained in there for several weeks. It also reached number 8 in the Finnish album chart. In the album charts, which is pretty good. So AllMusic gave it I'd say 4 and a bit stars. Now, classic rock, the stars are so small, so I'm going to have to count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Gave it 8 out of 10. That's very small. Even my eyes can't see that. So it went down pretty well. So let's have a look at the nuts and the bolts of this one. Okay, song quality. There's some really good songs on here. And there's some that I'm not particularly fond of. So I'm going to give it 3 out of 5. Production. This is 1966, of course. It was more plug-in and go sort of stuff. We know these songs sound better. You know, when they've done them, there's some live recordings of them, and people have done them, and we know how good these songs are. So I'm going to give production a 3 out of 5. Reception. That went down very well, didn't it? It's a very good album. Fans liked it, the critics liked it, so we'll give it 4 out of 5. Cover design, again, very good cover. It's got the band on the front, very clear, says who it is, etc. So we're going to give that one a 4 out of 5. So for Small Faces by the Small Faces gives us a total of 14 out of 20. Very good score. So let's move on. So the Faces were formed in 1969 after lead singer Steve Marriott left to form Humble Pie, which left Ian McLagan on keyboard, Ronnie Lane on bass, Kenny Jones, and they recruited 2 chaps from the Jeff Beck group, a certain Mr. Ronnie Wood and a certain Rod Stewart. and then they decided to go away from the Small Faces and just call themselves the Faces. So one person leaves. The well, two people had left. You'd got obviously you'd got Steve Marriott and Johnny Wishton had left. So Jimmy Wishton, sorry, Johnny Wishton. So and they decided to bring in two people from Jeff Beck's band. Obviously, they all knew each other. So that's how the Faces come about. So their debut album was released in early 1970, and it is called First Step. Now, there's two album covers of this. I've just put the other one. They're both the same cover, but the American one was credited to the Small Faces. Don't ask me why. But there you go. And the album cover shows Ronnie Hood holding a copy of Jeffrey Sisley's seminal guitar tutorial First Step, how to play the guitar with a plectrum. So that's how it got its title. So on this album we have got on lead vocals and backing vocals, harmonica and banjo, Mr. Rod Stewart. On the bass we had Ronnie Lane, did lead vocal on one track and co-lead vocal on 2 or 3. Ronnie Wood on the lead rhythm and acoustic guitars, Ian McLagan on the Wurlitzer electric pianos and keyboards and Hammond, Kenny Jones on the drums. The engineer was a certain Martin Birch. Wonder what happened to Martin Birch, eh? And the production was done by the band themselves. So the album, like the Small Faces, opens up with a cover, and it's a cover of a Bob Dylan song, Wicked Messenger. And again, time and time, we have people covering Bob Dylan songs. This is better. Love Ronnie Wood's guitars on this, and I do like Rod's vocal. Incredible, really good version of that song. Then we get Devotion. Never been keen on this one. I just think it's lacklustre. Then we get Shake, Shudder, Shiver, a duet from Ronnie Lane and Rod Stewart. This is great. The two Ronnies, not Corbett and Barker, I'm talking about Lane and Wood, are brilliant on this. They sound great. Really good song. Love that one. Then we get Stone, vocals by Ronnie Lane. It's a bit of a country song. Nice guitar work for Mr. Wood though. That's really good. Then we get Around the Plynth. I love Ronnie Wood's guitar work on this again. The slide guitar is fantastic, and it's a great vocal from Rod. Great stuff. Then we get Flying. This is a classic from the Faces. One of their great songs. Rod's vocal is brilliant, and then it's Ronnie Wood's guitar work as well. Terrific track. Then we get an instrumental called Pineapple and the Monkey. A really chilled track this is. Great bass from Ronnie Lane, some great keyboards from Ian. Kenny Jones, brilliant on this, great track. Then we get Nobody Knows, another classic from the Faces. I love this style of track with Rod. You sort of knew this is where Rod was going to go when he became a solo artist. It's just absolutely terrific. Then we get Looking Out of the Window, another instrumental. Great track. Just love it. You know, these are fine musicians. All went off and did other things as well. Kenny Jones, he's drummed with the Who. Ronnie Wood ended up in the Stones, of course, and still with them. It's just fine musicians. 3 Button, Hand Me Down, my favourite track on the album. It's just that great bass line from Ronnie Lane. Great little rocker, definitely my favourite album. Good way to end the album. So, what do I think of this? I love this album. I love the faces and the small faces. You know, to me, they are one really, but they just changed the name. The difference is, I think, that Rod Stewart's voice is amazing. I love Rod Stewart, and we will be doing something on Rod Stewart and the faces again next year when we're going to do a story of Rod Stewart. So we're going to leave all the albums. So, okay, people say, "Oh, will you do an album ranking?" Yes, there will be an album ranking. We will do the faces and the small faces, leading up to the into the Rod Stewart story. So that's all going to be done. But I really love this. It's got great tracks on it. Well, so this will be a tough one for me to choose the best. That's enough of me telling you what I thought of it. Let's see what the critics and the fans. So, reviewing for the Rolling Stone magazine in 1970, Joel Severn found the Faces to be a fine rock band, but also highly derivative of and who play more control than soul. They know exactly what they're doing, and they do it well, as all musicians should. Christian Chris Stew's guide said that the rock albums of the 70s, he said that this is more of a complication in Rod Stewart's mystery, saying with Jeff Beck he parodies himself before he's established as a self-parody and what drugs he was on. Lou Reiser said that he established himself as a singer-songwriter of uncommon spunk and vocal interpreter of uncommon individuality. So Chris Goo's record guide gave it C+. All Music gave it a 4, and it only got to number 70 in the album charts. So Small Faces did a little bit better. Okay, then let's get into the nuts and bolts of this one. So for song quality, I think the songs are pretty damn good. There's some really good songs on this album, well written. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Production, very good production. They use the sounds of the time, and it does help when you have a really good engineer, doesn't it? Called Martin Birch. So I'm going to give that a 4 out of 5. Reception, critics loved it, but the fans sort of took a little while to get to it, and it only made number 40, as we said. So unfortunately, I'm going to give this one a 3 out of 5. Cover design. I like the idea of it. It looks really good, and you got the guitar lessons book, First Step. I think what let this one down a little bit was the light. I don't think the picture's that good, but it shows the band, and it's just clearly what it is. If it was in the UK, it was the Faces, and America, Small Faces. It's all there. So despite being a little bit darker than the Small Faces, I'm still going to give it a 4 out of 5. So that gives us a grand total for First Step by the Faces of 15. So this is a tough one because they're both good albums, but I think I'll go with the Faces today. I think the addition of Rod Stewart and Ronnie Wood was a major coup, because I think Ronnie Lane as a singing on his own is a little bit weaker, but with Ronnie Lane and Rod Stewart working together, they complemented each other well. As it goes with Steve Marriott, Ronnie Wood, they're both excellent guitar players, so I've got no problem with the guitars, but I think the Faces album is a little bit better. I don't know if that's because things had moved on, but both great debut albums. But today I'm going to give it to the Faces. But you may have a different opinion. You have gone against me once already, so we'll see what happens. So you know how to do it. There's a poll up. It'll be on tonight's live stream, and there's a poll on our Facebook page. If you want to join the Facebook page, because we do put little bits up there as well, just come and find it, and I'll invite you in, or Dave will. Okay, that's all for this episode. I'll be back a little bit later with an album artwork, and we're looking at the crazy covers of German industrial band Rammstein. So join me for that. So bye for now.